Hi, this is Misha Tuesday, the Mystic Hypnotist, doing a little video on the difference between prescriptive tarot versus descriptive tarot, and I'll break that down in a second. This came up in my tarot class last night where someone said, could I pull one card from each of the sections of the deck? And most people do think of the deck as having two sections of the tarot deck. The major arcana, which are the kind of big concept cards that most people think of when they think of tarot, like strength, the magician, the chariot, death. All of these, big high concept cards are the major arcana, and there are 22 of them. Now, the other section that most people talk about is the minor arcana, which is the suit cards. Similar to a modern playing card deck, the tarot does have four suits: the cups, the pentacles, the swords, and the wands. And they do correspond to the four elements. I'm not going to get too into that here, but I further break down the minor arcana into two different types because they act a little bit different. The pip cards, or the number cards, which are the suit cards from ace through 10, and then the court cards, which are king and queen, knight and page. Of course, in a modern deck, the page and the knight are merged into jack. But in a tarot card deck, we have four court cards of each suit. And someone asked me in my class last night, could I usually do a reading by pulling, this is what I think was Tori said, I usually do a reading by pulling three cards from the deck. Could I separate them out and pull one card from each section? And I said, well, for one thing, you can do whatever you feel like doing. They're cards. They're, ink on paper printed on a machine in a factory. So you're not going to disturb any mystic energy in the actual items, right? But furthermore, this is actually something that I do quite often. Was kind of a little bit of synchronicity, or what would you call it, kismet, that simpatico, that's the word I was looking for. Tori and I were a little simpatico on that, where when I mentioned the three sections, she said, could I pull one from each? And this is something I've been doing for a while now, for a couple years. It's actually the first thing that I developed that I started calling active tarot when I do my active tarot system, which is a big system that talks about how to connect with the person you're reading for and how to make the reading more interactive and more powerful. That's something that I teach. But the reason I originally called it active tarot is because I had been doing this thing where I would pull from each section of the deck and take that not as a description of the future, a description of what is going to happen, but as a prescription, as a mission, right? Like a writing prompt, or a little instigation for some adventure or activity that I could do. And it's a very different way to use tarot. I'm a bit of a mad scientist with tarot, but I will demonstrate this technique real quick here. I have the minor arcana cards, the suit cards from ace through 10. Then I have the court cards. Those are the pages, knights, kings, and queens of all four suits. And then the major arcana cards, the big, high concept, grand life milestone kind of energies. And I will shuffle each section in turn. For the sake of brevity, I'll just do one shuffle on each. I usually do minimum 3. MIT says if you're talking about pure randomness, you want to do 7 shuffles of a deck. If you're a poker player or a card player, you want to do 7 shuffles of each deck to make it fully randomized. This is according to mathematicians at MIT. For the sake of brevity, I've done one shuffle on each stack, and I am now going to draw my pip card or number card, my court card, and my major arcana card. And instead of interpreting this, because I've came here with intention that I am not using this as a description of what is to come, I am using this as a mission for me. The cards are going to tell me, give me a suggestion, if you will, of some activity. I usually consider them binding myself because that's how I roll. But it will take some interpretation, but it will give me an activity that I am recommended to do. So the Minor Arcana, the pip card that I got is the Eight of Cups. Ooh, that's a challenge card too. So I'm going to have to interpret that a bit. Let's see who I'm doing it with. Oh, I should talk about how I interpret these. The pip card is an activity to do. The court card is the type of person to do it with. Usually the card will remind you of someone that you know, and you can say, hey, I'm trying this crazy thing. You want to do whatever? And then the Major Arcana card will be the theme or the purpose. So an activity to do with a person for a purpose. So the Eight of Cups, which is usually emotional boredom, feeling like walking away from something that's not worth it anymore, which is a weird thing now that I'm going to have to interpret something to do with. And then the court card I got is the King of Swords. This would be kind of a masterful intellectual person, someone who's sharp as attack, has keen insight. We'll figure out who that is in my life as we go forward. And the Major Arcana card I got is the Sun. So the activity is something to do with loss or walking away in the emotional realm, because cups represent emotion. The King of Swords would be a masterful communicator, someone who's very sharp and has good judgments and insights. And the Sun is kind of radiant joy, joyfulness, pleasure, things going well. This is the purpose now. Sometimes overcoming our subconscious fears and internal obstacles is part of that to walk out into the sun and experience that joy. So if I were going to interpret this as an activity, the word loss really came to me on this one, which is an aspect of it. A loss of some kind with a King of Swords for the purpose of joy or overcoming fear. And I'm kind of assembling an idea of what this is. If the loss and a person, it would be a shared loss, right? And then the purpose is coming to some kind of happier state or overcoming fears. And I think that I'm going to interpret this as commiserating over losses, the things that we've lost, whether it's people who have passed or the fleeting youth, the fleeting nature of youth. Something like that, commiserating over some emotional downsides with a King of Swords. And this is all coming together for me because I lost a friend a long time ago. I don't remember exactly how many years now. It's probably almost 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years, that I lost a friend in a very dramatic way. He was murdered. And this King of Swords is reminding me of someone who also knew him, that is very sharp, very, very great communicator, a wordsmith, and for the purpose of, maybe clearing out some of that fear and regret and sorrow, and looking at the future with brightness. So I'm interpreting this. I'm choosing to interpret this because I said I'm going to pull one card from each section and interpret it as a dictum, a pronouncement of something that I should do, I should try, and I'm gonna attempt to reach out to this person, who's someone I knew a long time ago, lives in Pittsburgh, and see if he wants to reminisce about. Usually, you call up old friends and reminisce about the good times, and I think he's going to be game for this. Let's reminisce about some bad times or some things that we've lost, some things that we regret or are sorrowful about, for the purpose of washing away any fear or remorse or grudges we may still be holding on to. And that's how you use tarot as a prescriptive activity rather than a descriptive activity. When I do an active tarot reading, I usually combine both of those a little bit because I am a mad scientist, but put that in your toolbox. Especially, it's great if you want to read for yourself. And if you're like me, I know a lot of people can read for themselves. I have a tough time doing like a future reading for myself with tarot. I usually use pendulum for that. But with a tarot practice for myself, this is one that I really key into a lot. I call it the prescriptive tarot. Well, I actually haven't named it. It was the instigation of the active tarot system. There's a lot more in that now. You can look at my website, MishaTuesday.com, if you want to learn more about that. But I will call this the prescriptive tarot adventure technique. So thanks for watching. And when this is on my YouTube channel, I did it live on social media, but I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel. So if you're seeing it there, please do like the video, subscribe to my channel for more tips on tarot and other personal power and mystic insight things. Thanks and have a great day.